Hi, and welcome to Life as a Phoenix, the Transformational Journey. I'm Janora, and this is the first episode of a series in which I'm going to discuss some of my life's biggest challenges, and I'm going to try to focus on some topics that we all face, and even if you haven't faced some of those challenges, I want you to kind of use this information, relate it to your own life, and kind of reevaluate where you are, search your own feelings, and acknowledge that you are, like me, a phoenix, destined for greatness. We're not meant to linger in the ash and the soot from being burned. And let's face it, I mean, we've all been burned. So first I'd like to talk about why I chose Life as a Phoenix as a series title. Many people are familiar with the legend of the phoenix, but some people are not. So I'm going to give you a little brief background on that. A phoenix is a beautiful mythical bird with magical powers. It's said to live for a century before it ultimately returns back to its nest to die. Its death is by self-induced fire. The bird spontaneously bursts into flames and burns ferociously, fiercely to its ashes. But from those ashes, the phoenix reemerges. It's reborn, rises from those ashes more powerful and more beautiful than it ever was before. And I know that we can all kind of relate to the crash and burn piece of that, but how many of us can really relate to the reemergence piece? We've all been through our own fires, some of various degrees. We've all been burned. We've all had some turmoil, but that's not what really defines us. What defines us is what happens when the fire is out, when the dust settles, when the smoke clears. Where are we? Who are we? What do we become? What do we do with that? Do we carry those wounds? Do we consider ourselves burned, bruised, broken? Or do we say, hey, you know what? I've had this experience, this is what I've learned, and this is what I'm going to do with it. And that's where I am right now in my life. That's where I am with it, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I can give you a little bit of background about what made me decide to embark on this journey. A little over a year ago, I had a life-changing experience, and it was definitely a Phoenix experience, probably more dramatic than anything than any of us would ever hope to have to encounter. Certainly the most significant of my life. Not the first Phoenix experience I had, but certainly the most significant. But for me, it was a literal Phoenix experience because I literally came back, reemerged from an almost certain death. About a year ago, it was January 2016, that's when this journey kind of began for me. So last January, I had kind of a rough night. I wasn't feeling real well, but I had a big day the next day, and I knew I couldn't take off work. My little girl was sick too, and I asked my teenage daughter to stay home with her and keep an eye on her, and I was going to come home at lunchtime, which in hindsight, it probably saved my life that I made that decision, which wasn't a typical decision, wasn't something that I normally would do. I was feeling under the weather, but I knew I had recently been in trouble about something at work, and so I knew I couldn't afford to miss the meeting that I had scheduled. So I went on to work anyway, even though I was feeling kind of bad. And I remember all morning I just kind of had this doom and gloom feeling about me. But anyway, I was working as a care coordinator for people with special needs at the time. And I remember once I got to the office, I got there a little after 9, and my supervisor started at 9. I remember wanting to hurry up and get there before she noticed that I was late. And as I'm going in, I hear this pop. Well, it turns out that that pop was a vein in my brain that just spontaneously burst. It's called subarachnoid hemorrhage. It's an anomaly very similar to an aneurysm where a vein, it just happened to be in my brain here, it burst and bled into my subarachnoid space. Well, 50% of people who have a subarachnoid hemorrhage die. 20% of those people never even make it to the hospital, and those that do survive usually have some long-lasting level of disability and a long recovery. It makes up about 1 in 7 strokes, subarachnoid hemorrhage. So here I was, 38 years old. I'm a single mom of 6, mind you, 6. And I'm living a super hectic life. I was a full-time mom. I'm a full-time employee. I was in school. And suddenly I couldn't be a care coordinator anymore. You know, as a care coordinator, I took care of other people's needs all day. That's what I was doing. I was taking care of people. That was my whole life, taking care of people. When I came home from work, I had these 6 kids that I had to take care of on my own. So I'd come home taking care of people. And all of a sudden, I needed people to take care of me. And it was so far removed from what I was used to. Suddenly, you know, everything that I was gone. I was a PhD student at the time, and I was actually scheduled to be in my comprehensive exams that day. Clearly, that wasn't going to happen. So that was put on hold. You know, I just felt like my whole life was put on hold. I couldn't be a mom or a care coordinator or a student or a gym rat. I could be hardly anything at all. I was in a hospital bed in an ICU unit, fighting for my life for almost a month. A single mom of 6. So my family was all still up north. I had some friends here, but no family. It was just me and these 6 kids. Even their father had moved back to Pittsburgh. So if you can imagine what that took out of me, you know, I had never really been away from them. The baby was only 3 at the time. I mean, it was almost unbearable. And I will talk a little bit more about what that experience was like for me in maybe one of the later episodes, because that in itself was certainly an experience. But that's not what I want to focus on right now. What I want to focus on is you know, what having gone through that changed in me. So anyway, even after they let me come home, I was kind of continually going through this experience. I was on so many meds, and prior to that, I wouldn't even take Tylenol. You know, I had to have physical therapy to learn how to walk. I'm used to walking in heels. I mean, that's what I do. That's kind of my thing. That's what I do. I walk in heels. I walk in heels all day, every day. I'm known for walking in my heels. Nobody even knows I'm short because I'm always in heels. So here I am trading in my stilettos for a walker. You know, when they sent me home with a bedside commode, a shower chair, a walker, and a wheelchair. So it was clear that this recovery was going to be rough. And it was just like everything that I had worked for was gone from me. You know, I almost felt like Job, you know. So once you're down to nothing, what do? You know, so that's kind of where I was, and I was pondering that. What do you do when everything that you were you're suddenly not, you know? And I got real depressed about that. I felt cheated. I felt abandoned. I felt discarded. I kind of had this why me God thing going on, and I was angry. I was angry at God. You know, why if I worked so hard to overcome so much, why would you take everything from me? Why would you let me come this far and then just knock me off my feet? I had recovered from this divorce. I was taking care of my kids on my own. I was just some girl from the hood, and here I was working on my PhD, and suddenly all of that was over, you know. I had already been struggling, and then suddenly I'm on short-term disability, which was about 60% of my income, and I didn't make that much to begin with. I mean, I work in human services, right? And I'm trying to raise these kids on my own, and then boom, this happens. So my parents came down, and they're elderly, but they did the best that they could to help me. And I had a lot of friends and people from work kind of pull together and help prepare meals and stop by and check on things. And I was so depressed and down and angry. I couldn't even see what a blessing that was at the time. I was mean and ornery and grumpy, and I was ungrateful toward my parents. I started making bad choices in my relationship. I had a horrible attitude. I remember I would just bark at my then boyfriend, and it caused all kind of problems in my relationship. I was frustrated with the kids. I just remember yelling at them, and none of that was like me. I was a shell of myself, and I was just miserable. I mean, miserable. And then one day, I woke up, and I realized something. I could be angry. I can complain about all this, or I could recognize the fact that 50% of the people who have subarachnoid hemorrhage don't live to vlog about it. If they do live, they don't get to walk or talk or get back in the gym or raise their kids or finish their PhD or resume their roles at work. People don't just get to do that, and it's not by chance that I had an opportunity to do just that. That's nothing short of a miracle. So I want to recognize my miracle. I decided that day I'm going to stop complaining. And I put on my heels, and I learned how to walk in them again. Now, I realized that I had some recovery physically, and then from there I had some recovery I needed to do emotionally. So now that I'm here, now that I'm at this place, what I want to do is I want to acknowledge my miracle, and I don't want to squander it. I want every moment of life that I have in me, I want to live. I don't want to spend time doing anything that doesn't make me absolutely happy. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to pay my bills or wash my dishes. Of course, I got to do that. We've all got to do that. But I don't want to fool around. I don't want to waste any time. I want to be happy. I want to take full advantage of my life. I want to have fun. I want to laugh. I want to be fearless. I want to travel. I want to try new things I haven't tried. I want to see things I haven't seen. And I want to be the best that I can be at everything that I do. Not just for me, but so that I can inspire somebody else. You know, I want to ignite that fire in somebody else. I don't want you to have a near-death experience to recognize, hey, guess what? I'm a Phoenix too. Maybe all your Phoenix experience needs to be is the realization that you're not happy with your job, that your relationship isn't satisfying, or that maybe there's something that you've been wanting to try or something you want to change that you haven't done. Well, why not? I mean, really, what is stopping you? We've all had to go through something. We've all had to recover from something. We've all had these fires. Some people have had failed marriages, scars from childhood. Some people have had abusive relationships or have made poor financial choices. Some people have had drug use in their history. Some people have been raped or have health issues or have lost a loved one or have brokenhearted or been let down. I mean, the list is infinite, and it goes on, and I know that I'm going to have some fires and I need to put out eventually again. But we're all still here. We're still survivors. Phoenixes in our own right. So we need to tap into that power, own our circumstances, rise from our ashes, not with bruises and burns and scars, but with new fire, new feathers, new flight, new life, new spirit. We need to rise from those ashes more beautiful and more powerful than ever before. I'm a phoenix. You're a phoenix. Get on fire.